A boarding school for girls eventually began admitting boys when it changed its director. 5 friends from 10th grade, Fujino Kiyoshi, Takehito Morokuzu, Shingo Wakamoto, Jiaoji Nezu, and Ryuji Andu lived a normal life. They all had just arrived at the school. They were getting used to being surrounded by girls and the school's strict rules. One of the boys, Kiyoshi, was a quiet and kind person who mostly kept to himself. One day, while he was writing in class, his eraser rolled off his desk and landed on the desk of a girl sitting in front of him. Kiyoshi leaned forward to grab it, and he saw that the girl was Chiyo Kirihara, the prettiest girl in the class. He felt embarrassed and quickly pulled back, hoping she hadn't seen him. But she had. She looked at the eraser and saw a picture of a sumo wrestler drawn on it. Kiyoshi felt nervous because he thought she might laugh at him for liking sumo wrestling. Not many students at the school liked sumo. He was worried that she would think it was strange. To his surprise, after class, Chiyo came over to him. She asked if he really liked sumo wrestling and if the wrestler on the eraser was his favorite. Kiyoshi felt shy but also happy, so he nodded and told her that he had been interested in sumo since he was a kid. Chiyo then smiled and shared that she also liked sumo wrestling. In fact, she had the same eraser with the same design. They ended up chatting about sumo for hours, bonding over their common interests. Before they left, Chiyo invited Kiyoshi to a local sumo festival. Kiyoshi was excited and happily accepted her invitation. That night, as he lay in bed, he thought about their unexpected conversation and how joyful it made him feel. Meanwhile, the other boys in the dorm were having a different kind of talk. They were planning to sneak a peek at the girls' locker room, which was strictly against the school rules. The school had very serious rules about romantic or sexual activities, and anyone caught breaking those rules would face harsh punishments. Even though he knew it was wrong, Kiyoshi was persuaded by his friends to join their plan. They decided to climb up to the school roof, where they could look into the girls' locker room using a video phone on a string. At first, Kiyoshi hesitated, especially when he thought about Chiyo being in the locker room. But one of the boys assured him that she wasn't there at the moment. Feeling a mix of bad feelings and curiosity, Kiyoshi agreed to go along. While they were on the roof, Kiyoshi started lowering the phone down using a string. But then, he lost his grip, and the phone fell into a flower pot right inside the girls' locker room. Now he had to go get it, or they would get caught. Kiyoshi decided to sneak into the locker room to get the phone quickly and leave before anyone saw him. He was worried about getting caught and didn't want to disappoint Chiyo. But he also felt a sense of responsibility to fix his mistake. As Kiyoshi quietly entered the locker room, everything was still until Chiyo walked in. He felt like everything was about to go wrong. His chance with Chiyo, his reputation, and his future at school all seemed to be at risk. But then, something unexpected happened. Chiyo looked right at him and started chatting casually, thinking he was her friend Mayumi, who had similar short dark hair and a small frame. Chiyo had trouble seeing and wasn't wearing her contact lenses, so she couldn't recognize him. Believing he was Mayumi, she began changing her clothes right in front of him. Meanwhile, the other boys were watching through the video phone and were stunned by what was happening. Kiyoshi tried to keep calm and stayed silent, hoping Chiyo wouldn't realize who he really was. Then, Chiyo invited him, or rather, Mayumi, to join the other girls in the shower area. Kiyoshi felt he had no choice but to follow her, nervously trying to cover himself and praying that the other girls wouldn't notice he was not who they thought he was. The situation was getting more complicated, and Kiyoshi didn't know how he would get out of it. When they arrived at the showers, none of the girls suspected anything at first. But soon, the real Mayumi appeared, and confusion began. The girls started questioning who the stranger was. Before Kiyoshi could come up with an excuse, another girl screamed that boys were spying on them. Chaos broke out. The girls ran outside to catch the intruders. Kiyoshi was left alone inside, stunned and ashamed. The other 4 boys were stuck on the roof, completely without clothes. A bunch of crows started attacking them, making even more people notice what was happening. Soon, the members of the secret student group, called the Underground Student Council, arrived. The first one to find them was Mary Kirihara, the leader of the council. She was known for teaching crows to do her bidding and keeping everyone in line. The boys tried to take all the blame and protect Kiyoshi by saying it was just them. But Mary didn't believe them. She was sure there was a 5th person involved and promised punishment until the truth came out. As Kiyoshi tried to slip away without being seen, Mary appeared behind him and showed him a paper explaining the rules of the Underground Student Council. This group was made to make sure everyone followed the rules and punish anyone who broke them. Realizing he was caught, Kiyoshi tried to run, but Mary sent her trained crows after him. He tripped and fell, and she grabbed his hair and pulled him to where everyone had gathered. Now that everyone knew, all 5 boys were sentenced to a whole month of strict punishment in the school's secret prison. The rules were tough. If any of them tried to escape, their punishment would be longer. A second escape attempt would add 3 more months. A third attempt would mean they would be kicked out of school. Their first job was to build a tall wall around the prison area. The person in charge of them was Mako Shiraki, who was the vice president of the council. She was a tall and strong woman with a serious attitude and a curvy body. She didn't make things easy for them. Any mistake they made led to tough punishments, which often included a whip. Surprisingly, the boys, except for Kiyoshi, started to enjoy the punishments because they were drawn to Mako's looks. Mako was really mean to the boys. One time, she made Andu and Nezu fall in the mud and then forced Andu to clean her shoes with his tongue. Kiyoshi couldn't take it anymore and told Mako to stop. But Mako just laughed at him and made things even worse. Kiyoshi's friends were upset because they thought he ruined their fun. They started to like the punishments because they thought it was a way to get attention from a pretty woman. As time went by, the boys started to listen to Mako more. They acted like the punishments were a good thing. The council realized that they were losing control over the boys. To fix this, they brought in Hana Midorikawa, who was the council's secretary. Hana looked like a nice girl, but she was actually a really good karate fighter. The council thought she could make the boys behave. Kiyoshi was worried because he knew Hana was strong. He was also confused because the other boys seemed to enjoy the punishments. He wondered why they would want to be punished. Kiyoshi was starting to feel like he was the only one who didn't understand what was going on. He didn't like how the other boys were acting and he was afraid of what Hana would do. He knew that Hana was going to make things even more difficult for him and his friends. Hana gave the boys a job: find as many lucky 4-leaf clovers as they could. They were going to use the clovers to make bookmarks and sell them to help poor kids. At first, the boys didn't think Hana was serious because she looked so sweet. But Hana quickly showed them she wasn't someone to mess with when she hit Shingo on the head. After that, everyone was scared of her and did what she said. Everyone ran around trying to find clovers. Kiyoshi went deep into the woods and found a baby bird that had fallen out of its nest. He climbed a tree to put the baby bird back. Meanwhile, the other boys only found 1 clover. They tried to trick Hana with a fake story, but she didn't believe them and punished them. While Kiyoshi was putting the baby bird back in its nest, he saw a branch near a school window. He saw Chiyo inside the school and she saw him helping the baby bird. Chiyo was happy and smiled because she thought someone who liked sumo couldn't be a bad person. She asked Kiyoshi if he was watching the girls, but Kiyoshi felt embarrassed. He didn't want to tell her the truth, so he lied. Chiyo believed him, but she seemed sad. Before she left, she told Kiyoshi that they couldn't practice sumo together anymore because he was now a prisoner. Kiyoshi, even though he wasn't sure it would happen, promised her that he would take her on a date one day. Chiyo's face turned red, and she quickly ran away. At that moment, Hana showed up by the tree. She looked around, sat down, and took off the shorts she wore under her skirt. Kiyoshi, still up in the tree, was shocked and tried to stay quiet. Suddenly, a crow landed on the branch, and Kiyoshi lost his balance. He ended up falling right in front of Hana, surprising both of them. The situation was awkward, and Kiyoshi couldn't believe what had just happened. Hana started crying right away. The sound of her crying made the deputy chief run over. Because of what happened, they were sent to jail right away. Once they were locked up, all the other guys were happy that Kiyoshi had made Hana cry, but Kiyoshi was just relieved that he was safe. The school principal told the head of the student council that the kids were going to be punished for what they did. But Mary told the principal that in other schools, they would have been kicked out, and that they were just figuring out what punishment they deserved. The director agreed that they had done something wrong, but he understood them because he had been like them when he was younger. He asked that they be allowed to rest on weekends, because the rules said they could. The situation was serious, but the director was trying to be fair. He knew that boys sometimes make mistakes, and he wanted to make sure they were treated fairly. The punishment was strict, but it was clear that the director wanted to give them a chance to learn from their mistakes. A new day started. The deputy chief told the guys to clean up the area, and then he hit Takedo on the head. He said Takedo didn't ask why they had to clean, because they were going to make a garden there, and the guys would have to work on weekends. But then Mary came and said that if they finished their work, she would let them leave the jail area for 3 hours. They were really happy and couldn't hide how excited they were. Kiyoshi just thought about his date with Chiyo and how he would soon be free for a little while. When the guys started working, they saw how the girls reacted to them. They were surprised to see the underground student council members there. Mary went to the director's office to tell him about it and give him a brochure, but he wasn't there. She just left the brochure on his desk, and then she saw that his computer was on. She looked at the screen and saw pictures of girls with no clothes on. She was really disgusted by this. She went back to the prisoners and said that she had changed her mind about letting them go outside. She said they weren't working hard enough and were just resting. It seemed like the director was doing something wrong, and Mary was trying to protect the girls. She was angry and upset, and she decided to punish the guys for something they didn't do. It was a confusing situation, and it showed how much power the director had and how little control the students had over their own lives. The guys were especially disappointed in Kiyoshi. He got so angry thinking about it all day and finally came up with a solution. He would run away on a date with his beloved, but no one should know, or their sentence would be extended another month. While they were sorting garbage and taking it to the dump near the prison wall, Kiyoshi made sure he was alone and began piercing a hole in the wall with a fork. When he peeked out, a sunbeam blinded him. Looking closer, he saw Chiyo on the third floor reflecting the sunlight into his eyes to get his attention. A lump of paper hit him but fell into a landfill. Chiyo then held up a note saying the sumo festival would take place in a few days. Kiyoshi read it and realized he needed to hurry. Chiyo then ran off on her errands. Fujino, thinking happily about Chiyo, returned to Meiko, who was mocking Takedo for not taking out the garbage on time. The warden beat him again. Kiyoshi had promised to do it for him but forgot. Takedo said nothing. At dinner, Takedo behaved calmly and reservedly, which even surprised Kiyoshi. Then his friend stood up and placed the same piece of paper Chiyo had thrown on the table, looked mysteriously at Kiyoshi, and walked away. In the public shower, Kiyoshi thought about it and tried to understand his friend's intentions. Was Takedo trying to expose his secret or help him? During the next garbage task, the prisoners were again watched by Hana. Kiyoshi went to check his secret passage, which was not yet ready. Hana walked over and watched him with contempt. She reminded him of the awkward situation under the tree and believed he had told others about it. Angry, she said it would be fair if she also watched him defecate. They argued, as Kiyoshi didn't want her to watch him. Still, she made him do it. They entered the junkyard unnoticed. Kiyoshi reluctantly began to take off his pants, embarrassed. Then a battered Takedo arrived. Kiyoshi had once again forgotten to sort the garbage. Hana, seeing they were no longer alone, left. After completing the task, Takedo confirmed no one else was around. He checked the excavation and realized Kiyoshi hadn't told anyone about the escape plan. Takedo said he wanted to help and would explain everything in the evening. That evening, Kiyoshi and Takedo pretended to play Gomoku so the others wouldn't suspect anything. Secretly, they discussed the escape. Takedo explained that every 4 years there was an exhibition themed on the Three Kingdoms, and he wanted to buy a figurine of Guan Yu on a horse named Red Hair. Kiyoshi would have only 1 hour before the council noticed his absence, and Takedo planned to distract the guard during that time. Now they only needed to finish the secret tunnel. Meanwhile, the director was walking home with a folder tucked in his chest. He encountered Mary in the corridor. They stopped and exchanged words. Suddenly, the folder fell, and its contents, photos of grown girls, scattered. The director stood still awkwardly. Mary stepped on the photos and walked on, silently. Following her father, she announced she would toughen punishment for the prisoners, not because they deserved it, but because she didn't want them to grow up like him. The next day, Kiyoshi and Takedo were already acting on their plan. While taking trash to the landfill, Kiyoshi sawed off part of the canopy to make it unstable. If it collapsed, no one would notice the hole in the wall. When finished, Takedo ran to him, yelling. Once again, Kiyoshi forgot to take out the garbage. Takedo had been punished severely again. They began a verbal fight which almost turned physical. Hana noticed and kicked them both hard, causing the junkyard canopy to collapse. Meiko approached, and Hana said the fight caused the destruction of the wooden beam. The deputy didn't believe them. She ordered them to choose head or ass. Takedo chose head, Kiyoshi was left with butt. The warden knocked them down, sat on Takedo's face, and whipped Kiyoshi hard. The others heard the screams and sympathized, knowing how guilty they were in the guard's eyes. After the punishment, the two beaten and desperate guys sat watching the departing women. They smirked, their plan worked. The canopy collapsed, hiding the hole. But Hana returned, told them to fix the barn quickly, and sat nearby with tea. This wasn't part of the plan. They needed to distract her. Hana called Kiyoshi over, still obsessed with the tree incident. She threatened harsher punishment if he spoke about it. To prove he understood, she again made him relieve himself in front of her. He said he didn't need to go, so Hana forced him to drink her tea. As he worked, Takedo came up with an idea: distract her with a love confession. He made an eloquent speech and proposed marriage, hoping to cloud her mind. But Hana ignored him and punched him in the stomach. Takedo noticed Kiyoshi shifting nervously and assumed the tea was working. Thinking the issue with Hana was resolved, he asked her to let Kiyoshi go to the bathroom. Kiyoshi tried to deny it, but Hana insisted. When he ran to the stall, she chased him. He barely locked the door, but she climbed over the partition, embarrassing him. She tried to force him to remove his pants. As she pulled them down, he resisted, accidentally knocking her to the floor. The tea worked, he defecated on her. She screamed loudly. Meiko heard and ran in. She found Hana soaked and began comforting her. Kiyoshi ran away. The next day, Meiko said Hana was ill and wouldn't be coming for a few days. As the prisoners lined up, Takedo asked about the incident, wondering if it was part of the plan. Kiyoshi said it wasn't, but admitted he sort of liked what happened. Mako noticed them whispering and, using the excuse that smirking was forbidden, whipped Takedo again. Hana had been gone for a few days, and the deputy chief didn't check on them very often. This gave them a chance to plan their escape. Finally, they figured out how to get out. During dinner, they talked about their escape like it was an experiment. They agreed to climb through a hole in the wall and stay outside for 1 hour to see what was happening around them. Meanwhile, the school principal was trying to figure out how to get rid of his collection of photos of different girls' thighs. Kiyoshi took the chance to climb through the hole in the wall. He moved around easily and went to check out the area outside. While he was exploring, he spotted the director digging a hole. Just then, the deputy chief walked in and asked where Kiyoshi was. Takedo answered that Kiyoshi was working a bit further back behind the wall. The situation was tense, and they had to be careful to avoid getting caught while trying to escape. The director put his collection of photos in the ground and was about to leave. He said goodbye to each of the pictures before walking away. The school bell rang, signaling that 1 hour had passed. Kiyoshi hadn't learned anything new during his time outside. While he was walking back, Mako came to get Takedo. She went to see how Kiyoshi was doing, and just then, he tried to run away, but he got stuck in the wall. Luckily, Mako came to the area and tripped over some rocks, giving Kiyoshi a chance to escape. Shingo saw everything that happened from where he was standing. Later that evening, Takedo and Kiyoshi were talking about their escape plan when Shingo came up to them and asked what they were talking about. But they didn't tell him anything. The deputy director came over to them and asked if they had filled out the questionnaires about buying something. She said no to 2 of them, told 2 others that she would think about it, and said she would definitely buy something from one of them. The guys were nervous about the deputy director's questions and tried to be careful about what they said. They were still trying to figure out how to escape safely. After that, she shared the schedule for the week, and it turned out that a regional competition was planned for Saturday, the same day Kiyoshi had a date. They were told to stand near the bathroom, which was quite far from the trash area. Now, they had 2 big problems: how to handle Shingo and how to get to the dump. While they were discussing their plans, Shingo went to take out the trash and accidentally heard parts of their conversation. He thought about what he heard for a long time, trying to figure things out. The next morning, Shingo asked Mako if he could help with some small tasks, saying that having 2 people to supervise would be better, but he had his own reasons for wanting to help. Kiyoshi also came up with a way to cover the distance. He planned to sneak out through the window in the bathroom, then crawl through the sewer to reach the dump. He thought this would solve their problem. Kiyoshi decided to try out his plan. While he was crawling, he overheard some guys joking that he and Takedo might be a couple. Just then, Mako arrived and broke up their conversation. She squatted nearby, and her sweat dripped down onto Kiyoshi. He watched it for a moment, then kept crawling. Suddenly, her foot slipped, and she accidentally kicked him with her heel. This unexpected moment added to the chaos of their escape plans, making everything even more complicated. Finally, Kiyoshi reached the trash area and crawled out. At the evening gathering, Mako asked why he had been in the bathroom for so long. Kiyoshi didn't know what to say, but Takedo helped him out by saying he had a weak stomach. After that, they were told they would be learning about computers with the girls. Everyone felt nervous about this. In class, the girls were out of breath and called the boys thinkers. They had a plan to play a farting sound during class, but they couldn't find it online. So Takedo decided to record his own fart sound. Unfortunately, he had an accident and pooped in his pants. When they went back to the prison, Takedo was asked why he had changed pants. He just said he had sharted himself. Now Mako was giving him new funny names. Meanwhile, the director couldn't live without his photos.
Disgusting pervert!
He dug them up again but decided to bury them forever and pour concrete on top. Takedo and Kiyoshi practiced their escape plan for the 10th time. When Kiyoshi checked the pit, he found out that the school principal had seen it and filled it with the rest of the concrete. They were left with no hope. Takedo was very upset. His ears would be hurt, and he wouldn't be able to see the figure for another 4 years. This meant their plans were ruined, and they were stuck in this place for much longer. The next morning, Kiyoshi tried to cheer up Takedo by saying he would definitely escape. Takedo didn't believe him. Kiyoshi even said he was ready to dress up like a girl to get out. Takedo asked where they would find the clothes, but Kiyoshi just said, "It's a school where we live." Just then, Mako came over. She yelled at Takedo and called him names. But when Takedo said sorry, he accidentally touched her chest. He thought she was small and jumped at her neck. Mako tried to stop him, but he flipped over, reached Mary, and pulled down her skirt. Everyone was shocked, and it was clear that Takedo was not going to give up on his escape plan. The headman gave Takedo a harsh punishment, even though he didn't deserve it. All the guys gathered around to listen as he talked about a plan. That night, Takedo didn't eat with everyone else. He was at the deputy chief's house instead. Takedo had actually asked for this punishment himself. He shaved his head and became a nun. While everyone else was having fun, Takedo walked in, looking completely different with his bald head. He even made a wig out of his own hair. It was Friday, and Kiyoshi was ready to steal a uniform. He hid under a sewer grate and watched a man carrying a uniform. He knew he wouldn't have enough time to steal it. Takedo, worried about Kiyoshi, started yelling insults at the man. He ran to Takedo, and Kiyoshi took the chance to grab the uniform. But Shingo tried to stop Takedo from causing trouble. The man came back and Kiyoshi was trapped. But then something unexpected happened. A bald man tripped over a container, and Kiyoshi saw his chance to escape. Kiyoshi ran out of the sewer and into the street. He was finally free, but he knew he had to be careful. The man was still looking for him. Kiyoshi had to find a safe place to hide. He ran and ran until he found a small alleyway. He squeezed himself into the shadows and waited for the man to go away. He was exhausted and scared, but he knew he had to keep going. He had to escape. Meiko was too busy to keep things in order. The boys seemed to enjoy her punishments, which made the head of the council scold her. Meanwhile, the boys in the cell were talking among themselves. In the morning, Takedo and Kiyoshi were sent to a place where they needed to maintain order, while the others helped out. Takedo gave Kiyoshi a column to use as a toilet. At the same time, Chiyo was getting food ready for a sumo snack. As Takedo and Kiyoshi had their lunch, they watched the girls warming up and talked about how quickly 3 weeks had gone by. Suddenly, the bell rang, and Kiyoshi rushed to the toilet. He left behind a speaker that made farting noises and sneaked into the sewer. He quickly changed his clothes around the corner. Kiyoshi noticed a girl and tried to get dressed faster, but his jacket was too tight and ended up tearing. Just then, Meiko turned the corner and saw Kiyoshi. Mistaking him for a girl, she simply walked away without realizing who he really was. Kiyoshi felt relieved but also worried about getting caught. He knew he had to be careful as he continued to change and avoid being seen. Chiyo was on her way to the subway. Kiyoshi was about to leave when the metro chief stopped him because of his bag. He started to take it off, but Mary noticed his torn uniform. She said sorry and left Kiyoshi alone. He quickly ran to the subway. Meanwhile, Meiko asked Takedo where his friend had gone. Takedo said he went to the toilet. Finally, Chiyo and Kiyoshi met. Chiyo asked why he was sweating so much. He said he had to run away. She gave him a towel. They sat down and watched the sumo wrestlers, but Kiyoshi wasn't interested. He was just admiring Chiyo's beauty. He wished this moment could last forever and was ready to give up everything for it. Pai suggested having something to eat, but Kiyoshi said he had already eaten lunch. Chiyo felt disappointed because she had prepared a lot of food. Kiyoshi then admitted that he was still hungry. This made Chiyo happy, and she offered him some onigiri. He thanked her and thought to himself that he could eat her food all night long, no matter what she made. Even though his stomach was empty, he found it really delicious. At the same time, Meiko came back to see Takedo and asked if Kiyoshi was around. Takedo replied that Kiyoshi had gone to the bathroom. Meiko wanted to tell Kiyoshi that he seemed different. When she walked in, she heard some funny farting noises. Takedo had turned on a sound machine, and everything was working as planned. Chiyo was still watching the sumo wrestlers while Kiyoshi ate. She suddenly decided to take a picture of him, and they took a selfie together. Kiyoshi needed to use the bathroom, so he went inside. Chiyo accidentally knocked over a thermos, spilling tea all over her back. She started cleaning herself up when she noticed her uniform in Kiyoshi's bag. He hadn't buttoned it up properly. Chiyo felt embarrassed and started to pull away from Kiyoshi. When he came out of the bathroom, she said she didn't want to see him anymore and ran away. It took Kiyoshi a moment to realize that she had seen her uniform in his bag. Meanwhile, Shingo went to talk to Takedo. He said it was probably easy to keep track of all the bags. Takedo replied that he had chosen this difficult situation for himself. He then asked where Kiyoshi was, and the answer was the same: he was still in the bathroom. They went to the bathroom, and Takedo tried to stop Shingo from going inside. Suddenly, Meiko kicked them both, asking what they were doing there. Shingo said that Kiyoshi wasn't doing anything wrong, and Takedo tried to defend him. They called out to Kiyoshi, but he didn't answer. Meiko decided to see for herself what he was up to, and she broke down the bathroom door. Meiko kicked in the bathroom door and found Kiyoshi sitting on the toilet, crying. She and Shingo thought Kiyoshi was crying because he had a problem with his bottom or because he was skipping school. They both left. Takedo rushed to Kiyoshi, happy that he had made it back in time. But when he heard Kiyoshi saying mean things about himself, Takedo thought Kiyoshi had forgotten to bring the special figurines he had promised. He yelled at Kiyoshi to go back and get them. Kiyoshi explained that he had brought the figurines, and Takedo was really excited. But Kiyoshi didn't tell Takedo about his bad date. Takedo said they would talk about it later, so they wouldn't attract attention. As Kiyoshi and Takedo left the bathroom, they bumped into Mary, who was with Meiko and Shingo. Mary asked Kiyoshi if he had enjoyed the sumo wrestling match, making Kiyoshi and Takedo very nervous. Kiyoshi pretended he didn't know what she was talking about, but Mary showed them a photo of Kiyoshi and a girl named Chiyo together. This shocked Kiyoshi. Mary explained that Chiyo was her younger sister. Then, she guessed that Kiyoshi had disguised himself as a girl to escape. Meiko searched Kiyoshi's bag and found Takedo's hair and Chiyo's school uniform, which Kiyoshi had used to disguise himself. Mary was disgusted by Kiyoshi and left before Meiko could say anything. Meiko told Kiyoshi that he was in big trouble because he had not only escaped but had also embarrassed Mary's sister. Meanwhile, the other boys who had overheard the conversation were furious. They were already in trouble, and Kiyoshi's escape had made their punishment even worse. Shingo punched Kiyoshi in the face and yelled at him while he was on the ground. Ryuji had to hold Shingo back. Then, Shingo, Ryuji, and Zhaoji left, leaving Takedo and Kiyoshi behind. Kiyoshi was feeling really bad. He was sent to a solitary confinement room, where he would be kept alone. He was told that he would be questioned about his escape. In the interrogation room, Kiyoshi insisted that he had escaped on his own and that he didn't realize he was wearing Chiyo's school uniform. Meanwhile, Mary went to the girls' dorm to talk to Chiyo, but Chiyo wouldn't open her door. The next day, Mary announced the punishment for the escape attempt. The 4 boys who had escaped would have their sentences extended by 1 month, and Kiyoshi would be expelled from the school. Back in the mess hall, Takedo tried to defend Kiyoshi, but Shingo wouldn't listen. Shingo blamed Kiyoshi for everything, and the other 2 boys agreed. Shingo then accused Takedo of helping Kiyoshi escape, but Takedo said he didn't know anything about it. Meiko took Kiyoshi out of solitary confinement, and Mary forced him to fill out an expulsion form because she didn't have the power to expel him herself. Kiyoshi was feeling sorry for himself and decided to leave the school. He thought it was better for him to be expelled. At the girls' dorm, Chiyo finally came out of her room because she was hungry. She went to the cafeteria with Mayumi. While they were talking, Chiyo told Mayumi that she might have judged Kiyoshi too quickly. Just then, Chiyo overheard some other girls talking about Kiyoshi's expulsion. In the USC's room, Mary presented Kiyoshi with an expulsion request and told him to fill it out, saying it was for his own good. She stopped Meiko from scaring him but warned Kiyoshi that rumors about him stealing a uniform and pretending to be a girl would spread quickly. Because of this, he would be seen as a pervert for the rest of his high school life. Kiyoshi almost filled out the request, but just then, Chiyo burst into the room, arguing that kicking him out was unfair. Chiyo pointed out that if Kiyoshi was guilty of inappropriate behavior, then she was guilty too. She declared that she would leave the school if Kiyoshi was expelled. When Meiko tried to hit Kiyoshi, Chiyo instinctively pushed him against her chest to protect him. Mary realized she couldn't win when Kiyoshi decided not to sign the expulsion form, hoping for a chance to redeem himself. However, she disagreed with Chiyo's claim that Kiyoshi was kind. Kiyoshi, thinking about wanting to feel Chiyo's chest again, chose to stay at the school. But when he returned to the prison, he discovered that the other boys, led by Shingo, were now ignoring him. This left Kiyoshi feeling even more isolated and alone. Before heading to the shower room, Mary told Meiko she wouldn't just expel Kiyoshi, but she would get all the boys kicked out of school. During a history class in the prison block, Shingo threw eraser bits at Kiyoshi until he finally told them to stop. Meanwhile, Meiko went into the boys' cells trying to find their weaknesses, following Mary's instructions. The next day, during the prisoners' work shift, Meiko assigned the boys to work together on fixing the athletic storeroom and the nearby toilet. Shingo made Takedo leave Kiyoshi alone to clean the toilets while they went to the storeroom. At the same time, Meiko reported her findings to Mary, who typed Plan DTO into her computer. This was the plan to expel the boys, now called Operation Boys Expulsion. However, Mary quickly corrected herself to just DTO before Meiko could, realizing that Operation DTO was repetitive. The two then noticed that Hana was late. Mary's plan was clear. She wanted to get rid of all the boys, not just Kiyoshi. Meiko was following her orders closely, searching for ways to exploit the boys' weaknesses. Shingo, always trying to control the situation, made sure Kiyoshi was isolated and left alone with the unpleasant task of cleaning the toilets. With the plan in motion and Hana's absence, it seemed like trouble was brewing for the boys. Kiyoshi was waiting by the bathroom, hoping someone would come out soon. Suddenly, Hana appeared and blocked his way. Kiyoshi was scared because Hana was angry. They argued for a long time, and Hana said she would get back at him. Kiyoshi begged her to stop, saying she wasn't a bad person. Finally, Hana left, but Kiyoshi was still worried. Meanwhile, the underground student council was having tea. Mary smiled, looking like she was up to something. A group of crows flew by the window, making a dark shadow. Hana went back to the underground student council's office. Mary and Mako told her about their plan to get rid of the boys. They called it Operation Boys Expulsion. Their plan was to make the boys misbehave, so everyone would think they were bad and kick them out of school. Mary kept saying Operation DTO, but Hana pointed out that was a bit confusing because Operation was in there twice. She told Mary to just say DTO. Mako was about to say something, but Hana got there first. They decided to use Shingo's anger at Kiyoshi and the problems the boys were having with each other to make their plan work. After everyone finished their work, Mako kept Shingo back instead of letting him go back to the boys' area. She gave him some cake and then gave him a special job to do. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi told Takedo that he was okay being left out and didn't need Takedo's help. Takedo felt bad and ran away from the showers when Shingo came back. The next day, the boys were all beaten up except for Shingo and Ryuji. Later, in the dining hall, Jiaoji almost punched Ryuji because Ryuji accidentally knocked over his ant farm. Kiyoshi and Takedo stopped Jiaoji from hurting Ryuji. Shingo went to the guard office and met the vice president. He told her about all the bad things that happened the day before and how the boys were getting angry with each other. The vice president gave him some good food in return. But Mako threatened Shingo, saying she would tell the boys he was a snitch if he didn't become her spy. Back at the USC office, Mako told Mary about Joe's ants and how he was so protective of them. Mary decided to add the ants to their plan to make the boys even more stressed out. The next day, during their lunch break, the boys played in the courtyard after Jiaoji and Ryuji said sorry to each other. But everyone still ignored Kiyoshi, so he decided to take a nap by himself. While he was sleeping, Kiyoshi noticed something strange. There were a lot of crows in the sky, and all 3 USC members were standing near the wall, watching. He also saw Shingo talking quietly with Mako under a tree. After Shingo finished talking to Mako, he called Jiaoji away from his ants, pretending to need help with a math problem. While they were talking, Jiaoji saw the crows attacking his ants. He ran to save them, but Mako stopped him. She said the crows were hers and he couldn't touch them. Jiaoji was so upset that he pushed Mako out of the way, but Hana kicked him to the ground. He was so scared and angry that he didn't know what to do. He had lost his ants and was hurt, and the USC members were watching him like he was a bad guy. Kiyoshi woke up from his nap and saw the whole thing. He didn't understand what was going on, but he knew something was wrong. Jiaoji watched in horror as the crows ate his ants. Just then, Mary walked into the courtyard and said Jiaoji was in big trouble for pushing Mako. She told Mako to put Jiaoji in a room by himself, where he couldn't see anyone. Jiaoji was furious. He blamed Mary for her crows eating his ants. He grabbed a wooden knife and ran towards Mary. Kiyoshi saw what was happening and ran to stop him. He tripped and fell, and the knife went into his behind. Kiyoshi was bleeding, but he didn't want anyone to know what really happened. He told everyone he fell on a tree branch and his bottom hurt because of that. Mary sent Jiaoji to the room by himself for trying to hurt her. Hana took Kiyoshi to the nurse. Before Jiaoji was left alone, Mary told him that his ants were actually okay. She said the crows were just doing what crows do, and it wasn't her fault. Jiaoji was so mad, he didn't even listen. He was still angry about his ants and about being sent to the room by himself. Kiyoshi was in a lot of pain, but he was also scared. He didn't know what to do. He was hurt, and he didn't know if anyone would believe him. Kiyoshi was in the nurse's office, all alone. He was hurt and trying to clean his wound. Hana came in and saw that Kiyoshi had taken off his pants. She was angry at him for lying about how he got hurt. She decided to make him pay. Hana told Kiyoshi to pee right in front of her. Kiyoshi didn't want to, but Hana kept pushing him. He was trying really hard not to pee, but he was getting scared. Hana didn't want to wait any longer, so she stood over Kiyoshi and peed on him. Just then, Chiyo walked into the room. Hana and Kiyoshi were so scared that they quickly hid under the bed. Chiyo pulled the curtains that were hiding the bed, and she could see Hana and Kiyoshi's legs sticking out. Kiyoshi was really uncomfortable, and Hana was embarrassed. Chiyo finally left the room, and Kiyoshi crawled out from under the bed. He wanted to apologize to Hana, but when he saw her, he realized she had fainted. He was so shocked, he didn't know what to do. He was still hurt, and now Hana was unconscious. The chairman was in his office when a delivery arrived. Just then, Mary walked in to tell him about something that happened to Joe. Mary was really upset, but the chairman thought she was making a big deal out of it. His phone rang, and Mary told him to answer it, but he just sat there. Mary noticed that the chairman was acting strange. She asked him why he wasn't answering the phone. He was trying to hide something under his chair. Mary finally saw what it was, a mousepad with a weird picture on it. The chairman was embarrassed, so he quickly answered the phone and left the room. He tried to hide the delivery box, but Mary saw the mousepad that had fallen out. When the chairman came back, he saw that Mary had seen the mousepad. He tried to make excuses, but Mary pretended like she didn't care. She slammed the door and left. Mary was really angry. She thought the chairman was acting weird, and she was worried about Joe. She decided that she needed to take action. She was going to make sure that everyone knew what was going on. She was going to fight for what was right. Shingo was confused. He didn't understand why he was doing what he was doing. He thought Zhaoji had been tricked by the USC, but Mako threatened to tell everyone that Shingo was a traitor and that he'd been eating their food. The next day, Zhaoji was released from solitary confinement. He saw Shingo trying to bully Kiyoshi and stopped him. Zhaoji thanked Kiyoshi for helping him, and they talked about what happened. Kiyoshi was suspicious of Shingo, but he didn't say anything. Hana saw Kiyoshi and remembered their meeting, but she couldn't remember what happened under the bed. Later, Shingo was taken to the guard office. Hana told him that he could leave campus for 2 hours and gave him his uniform. So he walked around the city. First, he went to the store to buy beer and then decided to go to the arcade. Meanwhile, Takedo asked for help from Ganyu to find out how he could help his comrade. Shingo tried to win by playing the slot machine, but he couldn't do anything, and his opponent was a girl from his school who was sitting opposite him. She made fun of him, asked why he wasn't behind bars, but he just grinned. She asked him about it, but then her friends called her and she left. He returned to the deputy chief, thanked him for the opportunity, and bought everything they asked for. Shingo went to the toilet, and when he was flushing the water, he saw a sword that had fallen out of the figure of Takahito. Bao Takahito was crumbling crackers for the chicken they were eating. She offered him to try some secret, but he didn't say anything because he suddenly remembered that he found the sword in the toilet and gave it to her, told her where he found it, but was scolded for it. Mako dropped the sword and dropped it right into the chips. Takedo realized late that he had lost the sword and could no longer find it. Hana saw it all. She forced him to return to work. The council was drinking tea, and then Hana told that Takedo was passing through the bathroom and Mary saw some kind of Chinese sword that Mako had framed. Mako realized that everything was not so simple and began to search for all the information. And when she found it, she went to look in the toilet for what Takedo was hiding. Less than a minute later, she found the statuette. The next day, Shingo was released into the city, and Takedo, not finding his figurine, was disappointed and did not leave the cell. Today, Shingo didn't find the girl behind the slot machine, but she came up to him from behind and said that he wasn't playing well. This time, the girl suggested that Shingo take a walk. They ate ice cream, and then she offered to go to the cinema, but he had to go back. Then she gave him a rubber band and said that if he was released again, let him hang it on the fence so that she would know that he was released. The head decided to give out awards, 1 chip to everyone, but Takedo was given not chips at all but a sword that he lost. He was surprised. Then Mako apologized, saying that the same thing goes with this sword. In one set, took out a figurine. Then she asked Kiyoshi, who also replied that he did not know. She bluntly stated that this statuette could only be obtained when Kiyoshi ran away on a date, but they still did not respond. Before he could respond, Mako pounced on the figurine, but Takedo endured to the end. Ceasing to look at her, he rushed at Mako, snatched the statuette, and smashed it himself, dispelling all speculation. And here again, the council discussed the plan. The guys discussed Takedo and his offense. Only Shingo was against it and wanted to stop communicating with him, but the others forgave him because nothing terrible happened. And Mako was given a gift so that the guys would not enjoy the punishment. She was given a new uniform that covered everything. This made everyone uncomfortable, even Mako. The guys even discussed what happened to Ryuji. It turns out he can't live without a spanking. And it's been going on for a week. Ryuji was really messed up after a week without any punishment. The other boys were worried about him because he was acting weird and didn't even take care of himself. At the guard office, Mako gave Shingo some free time again, but she warned him that if he was late coming back, it would be considered an escape. Before leaving, Shingo had to do some work in the courtyard, away from the other boys. Kiyoshi surprised him by coming over and talking to him. Kiyoshi was suspicious about everything that was happening, so he asked Shingo to ask for help if Mako was trying to blackmail him. But Mako interrupted them and sent Shingo to the office so he could leave. Shingo went to the movies with Anzu, and she offered him a drink. They talked about how they were both scared of the horror movie. When the movie started, Mako told the 4 boys to go work on the entrance to the prison block. They saw Mayumi and Chiyo playing go outside. Mako didn't know what Chiyo was really up to, but Kiyoshi saw a secret message she wrote to him on the game board. The boys were taking a shower, but Ryuji was still locked up in his cell. Kiyoshi was trying to figure out the message Chiyo had written. Meanwhile, Mayumi and Chiyo were worried because they didn't know if Kiyoshi had seen their message. They were hoping he would get it. Shingo and Anzu went to the movies, but they were bored because the movie was about real life and history. They left the movie and went to the park. Kiyoshi was talking to Takedo in the baths. He was scared because he thought the USC was trying to do something bad. He showed Takedo Chiyo's message, but he couldn't figure it out. Takedo was surprised because he realized that the message was written up and down, not across. Kiyoshi had been reading it the wrong way. Kiyoshi finally understood the message. It said that the USC was planning to kick the boys out of the school, and they were using Ryuji to do it. Jiaoji and Takedo were shocked when they heard this. It was clear that the USC was up to something, and the boys were in danger. Ryuji was locked up in his cell, but he heard Mako's voice calling him. He was really sick and confused, so he followed the voice. He found his diary in the guard office, but someone had written in it. The writing said that bad things would happen to him after he left the office. Ryuji left the office and the boys realized that the USC was trying to hurt him. They rushed to find him. Ryuji saw Mako in the courtyard. She was angry and said she was going to punish him. Her clothes ripped, but then they went back to normal. Ryuji was really scared and ran to the vice president. But there was a fence with sharp wires that stopped him. Mako told him to keep going, and he broke through the fence. The boys got there and told him to stop, but it was too late. Mako whipped Ryuji as punishment, but then Hana suddenly knocked him to the ground. Mako shouted that they were breaking out of prison. The boys were shocked because they realized the USC had tricked them. Takedo noticed that the fence had been cut, so they knew the USC had planned this all along. The DTO was happy because they had done the second part of their plan. Mary said that Shingo was missing and that he might have betrayed them. She said it was really important for him to come back. Shingo and Anzu were hanging out in the park after watching a movie. They were both bored because the movie was old and black and white. Shingo was about to kiss Anzu when she laughed and said he looked silly. But then he saw two boys picking on another boy. The two boys were mad at the other boy because he had played with a girl. They said he was a traitor because they had a rule that they couldn't talk to girls. The bullied boy shouted at them, saying they should forgive him because he was their friend. But then, the bullied boy threw sand at Shingo. He thought Shingo was trying to hurt the other boys. Anzu was happy that Shingo helped the boy, but Shingo was upset. He realized that he had left the boys in prison and told their secrets to Anzu, all because he wanted to date her. He felt terrible. Anzu started crying and told Shingo that Mary had told her to keep him away from the prison before curfew. She said that if she did, she would get a good job next year. Shingo was shocked to hear this. Shingo looked at his watch and saw he had 35 minutes to get back to the prison. But Anzu told him she had changed the time on his watch during the movie. He only had 5 minutes left. He was scared. At the prison, the other boys were waiting for Shingo. They knew he was late and worried he wouldn't come back. They started to give up hope. But Kiyoshi, one of the boys, told them not to give up. He said they should shout really loud so Shingo could hear them. Just then, Mako told the boys about a contest at school. It was called the Wet T-Shirt Contest. The boys were so surprised they forgot about Shingo for a minute. Shingo was in a hurry to get to school. As he ran across the street, a truck almost hit him. Mako, meanwhile, was making fun of the boys in the schoolyard. She was holding a watch, and she was laughing at them. Shingo jumped out of the way of the truck just in time. The driver of the truck was the school janitor. Takedo had been mean to the janitor earlier, and the janitor was upset. The students at the school were waiting for a big decision from the USC, a group that judges the school. They were all surprised when Shingo showed up at the school. The janitor had driven him there. Shingo got to the school gate, but he couldn't open it. The time was running out. When the clock hit 6:30, the students were happy because they thought they had won. But Shingo was upset. He said the gate wasn't working right. Mako told him that the gate had been changed, and he didn't know about it. The boys had fixed the gate earlier, and they had changed how it worked. Mary said that the boys were going to be expelled. The other students started to talk about it, and everyone was upset. Shingo was feeling really bad about what he had done. He thought the boys were going to be angry with him, but they surprised him by forgiving him. Kiyoshi was the first one to say it was okay, but then Shingo told them a secret. He said he had looked at a girl's shirt in a way that was wrong. The boys were really mad at him for that and they punished him. Meanwhile, Mary was talking to her father, the chairman. She told him that the boys should be kicked out of school because they broke the rules. Chiyo, another girl, came into the office and said that she didn't do anything wrong. Mary and Mako didn't believe her, and Chiyo left. The chairman said that they would talk about the boys' punishment in 2 weeks. The USC, a group that judges the school, was having a party. Mako was trying to do a really hard exercise, but she couldn't finish it. Anzu, another girl, came in and apologized for telling Shingo a secret. Mary forgave her and let her leave. After Anzu was gone, Mary told her friends Hana and Mako that they should watch Anzu. But Mako was distracted because her underwear was hanging on the door. Back at the school, the boys were trying to figure out how to save themselves from being kicked out. Shingo said he might have seen something that could help them. All the guys were just as upset. Anzu told them that she had blabbed, and that's why Shingo almost snapped. But Mary didn't care anymore because she had succeeded. It remained only to prove that the guys were really framed. Shingo remembered the plan on the deputy head's computer, but they immediately decided that they had erased all the printed documents. But Takedo is not a blunder. He knows a program that can recover deleted files. Everyone is ready to carry out their plans, but then Mako came and brought them food. While they were eating, they were thinking over a plan. It is clear that while they are in the cells, it is impossible to get there since they are locked up and Mako is sitting in the supervision room. And when they are working, it is even more impossible. The first week is over. The decision has been approved. There is a week left to sign the papers. The only way to get into the boss's office was to pick up the keys, but it was not possible to do this by force, and there was no such plan. They started arm wrestling, and Mako, seeing this, challenged Ryuji to a duel. But Takedo did not let her do it so quickly. He decided to compete with her. She laughed at him but accepted the challenge. She immediately defeated him. Now she was challenged by Kiyoshi. He lasted longer but still got knocked down along with the table. But Kiyoshi was stubborn and said that he didn't lose. The table was broken. And while they were lying on the broken table, he stole the keys. Takedo took off with the keys, and Kiyoshi went to a new circle. He didn't last a minute before his arm was twisted. Meanwhile, Takedo found that file and was going to download it. Meanwhile, Shingo challenged her to a duel. At first, he told her some story, but she didn't care and she took his hand with pleas to let her sweat a little. It was destroyed in a matter of seconds. Mako wanted to fight Ryuji in a duel, but then Zhaoji challenged her. Although Takedo quickly found the application, the internet was very weak. Zhaoji was so weak that he immediately flew away. And Takedo had only to install the app. Then Ryuji's time came. A hair appeared on his chest. Mako drew attention to it. A healthy man immediately pressed her to him, but she still did not give up. Then she began to press the completion, but then the hair on his chest began to twitch. At the same time, Mako looked away. She lost concentration. She started insulting him, and he started losing concentration too. She decided to use all her strength not to see his hair anymore. Takedo had run out of installation, and Ryuji kept fighting and fighting. Mako couldn't beat him in any way, but then she had the idea to close her eyes so as not to see a single hair. She almost knocked him down, and now he lost. After the victory, she reached into her jacket and realized that there were no keys there. She turned around, and Takedo was standing behind her. He said they fell out of his pocket. She took them and left. Everyone was happy, but it turned out that he did not have time. He downloaded the program, found the file, and restored it, but did not have time to transfer it to a flash drive because he heard Ryuji's scream. There was no more chance. The plan failed. At night, they had a heart-to-heart talk because there was nothing else to do. The guys were really bummed because they couldn't find the email that would help them stay in school. They felt like they were going to be kicked out for sure and gave up hope. Except for Gakudo, he went totally crazy. Meanwhile, Mary and Mako were happy because they weren't going to be kicked out anymore. When Mako went back to the boys' place, she told them they only had 2 days left before they had to leave. She asked them what they wanted to eat for their last meal. Gakudo, who was still really messed up, asked for fried grasshoppers over rice. Even though it was weird, they gave it to him. Andre wanted to be punished, but they said no. Chiyo was sneaky and hid a message in their food. Kiyoshi left a goodbye message in the leftovers. Mako was amazing and went out to catch grasshoppers for Gakudo because that's what he wanted for his last meal. Everyone got their last meal, even Gakudo. But his food was so gross that he threw up and suddenly felt normal again. He had a new plan, but the others told him they were leaving the next day. Gakudo was really sad. Mako came back with papers for them to sign, saying they were leaving school. The guys thought she was sad because they were leaving, but they were wrong. Mako found out Gakudo had thrown away his food and got really mad. She beat him up. Then Mako left so the boys could sign the papers. Kiyoshi had an idea. He thought they should ask the head of the school for more time before they left. They convinced Mako to give the request to the head of the school, but then she remembered Gakudo didn't eat his food and ripped up the request. The day they were supposed to leave, the boys waited for the school boss in the prison block, but he never came. Mako took them out of the prison block, and Gakudo saw some papers on the ground. He said it was mean to the vice president, who had hit him. Hana was in the kitchen when a mushroom fell on her. It made her remember when she was in the hospital with Kiyoshi. As they were walking up the stairs of the school, Mary saw them and made fun of them. But then, the school boss arrived. He said he would listen to their request before they had to leave. Back in the prison block, Kiyoshi explained that their request to stay wasn't real. He knew Mako wouldn't give it to the boss, so he hid the real request on his paper that said he was leaving the school. The boys thought they were safe, but the boss said he wouldn't give in to their trick. Kiyoshi said it was a mistake and tried to calm the boss down. The boss said he wasn't mad about the trick anymore and told Kiyoshi to be quiet. The boys were still worried because the boss was very powerful. They didn't know if they would be allowed to stay at the school. In the dining area of the prison block, the chairman asked the boys whether they preferred breasts or buttocks. This question reminded Kiyoshi of the chairman's collection of photos. When Kiyoshi answered buttocks, the boys cheered because that was the right choice. However, their excitement was short-lived when the chairman told Kiyoshi that he needed to explain why buttocks are better than breasts. He made it clear that he would only help them if Kiyoshi could provide the correct reasoning. Meanwhile, in the courtyard, Meiko overheard Hana, who was very angry and holding a blade. Hana wanted to go into the prison block to find Kiyoshi. Meiko tried to stop Hana, especially after Hana remembered what happened with Kiyoshi in the nurse's office. After a struggle, Meiko managed to take control of the situation by using a special move called a reverse leglock to hold Hana down. As Kiyoshi thought hard about his answer, he felt the pressure. Gekudo started talking about how humans evolved and related it to a riddle about the Sphinx. At the same time, Kiyoshi caught a glimpse of Meiko's breasts through the window of the prison. All these thoughts and images helped him come up with the answer he needed to impress the chairman and save the day for his friends. As they realized, Kiyoshi figured out that early humans mostly saw buttocks before they learned to walk on two legs. He thought that breasts took away from the importance of buttocks when humans stood up. So, Kiyoshi concluded that breasts are just substitutes for buttocks, and something that is a copy can never be as good as the original. Just as he was explaining this, the chairman interrupted him to give him a heartfelt hug for providing the correct answer and announced that their punishment would be postponed. While listening from a barred window, Meiko was so surprised by this news that she lost her grip and fell down. The chairman then told the boys that they only had one extra day to prove themselves, saying that a true man could accomplish something in that time. As they walked back to their cells in the prison block, the chairman expressed his disappointment at how Mary was questioning them. Kiyoshi took a moment to thank Meiko for her support. In the office of the USC, Mary was furious about the one-day extension. She was so angry that she broke her cup of tea when Meiko mentioned that the boys and the chairman had been talking about buttocks. The two girls thought that the boys wouldn't be able to achieve anything in just one day, but Hana stepped up and offered to keep watch over them. The guys discussed the plan. Kiyoshi sent a note to Chiyo to do the same, and Ryuji distracted the deputy director. But when it was time for lunch, it turned out that Hana would be watching them. They started to implement their plan and tried to invite Hana to take part in their competition. But Hana blew Takehido's head off. Mary told Meiko that this was only part of the plan and her task would be something else. The guys started coming up with another plan. Takehido told Kiyoshi to text Chiyo to come to the back door of the correctional facility after dinner, together with Hana. Kiyoshi had to sneak into the correctional room, and only he could go there with her. While Chiyo was reading the note, Anzu approached her and offered his help. The council was taking a shower at this time. Mary, tense and thinking, realized that the guys would do something that night, so she told Meiko to get ready. When they were eating, their plan began with Takehido stabbing his own forehead with a fork. Hana ran to his screams, but didn't care. Beautifully covering the wound with something, she left. After that, Takehido went berserk and started shouting something about Kiyoshi and Hana being very close. Hana heard this, took them away, gave them a first aid kit, and they stopped the bleeding. Then they went to the cell, but she took Kiyoshi with her. At this time, Meiko was putting on her costume and preparing to guard the prison. They entered her office, where Hana took a pair of scissors and was going to cut him a cucumber. Meanwhile, Chiyo was preparing to carry out her part of the plan. But the scissors turned out to be just a deterrent. She cut a bottle and told him to empty himself into it. He didn't argue and immediately took off his pants. Hana started to get indignant. After a moment, he took off his underpants. He asked her to hold the bottle so he could aim. Hana decided to strike back and took off her underpants. Now she was going to come on Kiyoshi since he was so uninhibited. The winner would be the one who gets to the top. They said he attacked Hana, pinned her to the ground, she hit him in the stomach. He crouched down, and now he could see her. He could see her Gorgon Medusa. He couldn't look away. Hana said since that's what he wanted, go ahead. Kiyoshi couldn't continue. His mushroom turned to stone. She hit him for it. He learned the vices, and she began to fall on him, when suddenly Meiko caught someone. She started shouting to Hana, asking if she was alright and said she would come to her soon. But Hana shouted back that she was fine and didn't need help. When she was caught, the girl started babbling and asking to be careful with her. Everyone realized that it was not Chiyo, but Anzu. After Anzu was taken away, it was Chiyo's turn. While Hana was standing there, Kiyoshi stared at her. He called her a jellyfish again. Hana began to sob. She started hitting him in the face, after which she decided to start kissing him with the face of a mad woman. She was glad that she stole his first kiss. Shingo was surprised when he heard Anzu's voice. He realized that she was the one who had been caught by the underground student council, not Chiyo. Takehido, one of the boys, figured out that Anzu had actually joined their side, even though Ryuji and Joe thought she was just pretending. Mako, another girl, caught Anzu and wanted to know why she was in the courtyard near the USC office. Anzu said she hadn't done anything wrong, but Mako didn't believe her. She sat on Anzu's face and tried to make her talk. Anzu was in a lot of pain, but she refused to give in. She wanted to make things right. Mako kept trying to get information from Anzu, but she couldn't because Anzu had passed out. Mako was still suspicious, but she didn't get any answers. In the warden's office, Hana starts kissing Kiyoshi over and over again, but he eventually pushes her away. Even after that, she keeps trying to kiss him, especially when Kiyoshi admits that he still can't urinate. Kiyoshi notices that Hana is innocent because she isn't using her tongue while kissing. Even though he hasn't had his first kiss yet, he decides to try using his tongue to make an impression on Hana. Meanwhile, Takedo recalls a story he once heard about a historical event called the Flight of Shimazu, but Shingo tells him that it's just something he made up. The boys, especially Takedo, start to worry about Kiyoshi from the mess hall, sensing that he might be in trouble. Kiyoshi's plan seems to be working when Hana starts to lose her composure, showing that his strategy is having an effect on her. The situation is tense, and it's clear that things are getting complicated. In the warden's office, Hana finally gives in to Kiyoshi's intense kissing, collapsing on the floor. This allows Kiyoshi to unlock the door and escape, but a new problem arises when Chiyo tries to open the door, thinking it's safe. She's about to walk in on them, but Kiyoshi yells at her to stop, avoiding a very awkward situation. Kiyoshi is then taken to the mess hall, and Hana follows him back to the prison block before leaving the compound. The boys, seeing Kiyoshi and Hana looking disheveled, think they had a big fight, not realizing what actually happened in the warden's office. Meanwhile, Zhaoji and Takedo ask Hana if they can go to the bathroom, and she lets them. The boys return to their cell block, leaving Chiyo alone in the warden's office. It seems like everyone is going their separate ways, but the mystery of what happened in the warden's office is still lingering in the air. Mary found Mako with Anzu passed out. They decided to look around the whole place to make sure no one was hiding. They took Anzu with them, tied up, because the building was locked down for the night. Mary went into the warden's office, but it was empty. She saw Kiyoshi's water bottle, but then Mako started yelling. Mary rushed to her, scared something bad happened. But Mako was fine. She just had to go to the bathroom and ripped her clothes. Mary kept looking around and found the boys sleeping in their rooms. She knew the USC had won, and the boys would be kicked out. It seemed like everything went according to their plan. The next day, the boys are called into the chairman's office. They are quiet and complain, which makes the USC even more upset, and they want the chairman to kick them out of school. But Kiyoshi interrupts Mary, saying that the boys won. But then Mako grabs Takedo and asks who he really is. Suddenly, it's revealed that Takedo is actually Zhaoji in disguise and Zhaoji is really Chiyo in disguise. The USC is completely surprised. The girls from the school have been following them and they burst into the chairman's office. They start hitting Takedo, who is shirtless, until the chairman tells them to leave. The night before, Takedo escaped from the prison area to avoid the USC. He had 20 minutes to get evidence. He is very proud of himself because he got the emails that DTO needed. He says he is much smarter than the USC. Then, he pulls a flash drive out of his underwear and gives it to the chairman. The chairman looks at the emails on his computer. He sees messages from Mako's inbox that prove the boys are telling the truth, and that the USC has been lying and cheating. The boys explain that the arm wrestling tournament with Mako was all part of their plan. Hana is furious when she learns the truth. She kicks Kiyoshi with a pair of scissors because he tricked her into kissing him so he could open the prison door. But Mary stops Hana from hitting Kiyoshi again and admits that the USC has been doing bad things. The chairman decides to wait before punishing the USC. He lets the boys go free because they have already been punished enough. The boys can seen standing outside the main building, wearing their school uniforms while the girls are in their prison outfit walking towards the school cells where once they jailed the boys.